So while our way of life is disrupted for now, I know for me personally, it helps me to focus on things I'm grateful for. And as per usual, please send in your questions by using the chat option on your screen, and Carla will read them aloud. Carla, can you just check in, make sure you're there? Say good morning.
Hello, I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. So Carla will see your questions on the chat function, and she'll pop in to address them. So first of all, Chester, I'd like to start off with what's your definition of gratitude? What does it mean to you, and what does it mean to you in the workplace?
We talk about, it's a great question. I think everybody has a little bit of different definition of what gratitude means. To me, we talk about a culture of gratitude, and it's a place where I believe what I do matters and I make a difference. And when I make a difference, it's noticed and celebrated. To me, gratitude on a personal level is focusing on what I do have and not what I don't have. It's being grateful for here and now, for the people that are in my life here and now. And I think gratitude and that definition helps me to kind of put the past in the past, live a little more in the present, and be a little more hopeful for the future. What's your definition of gratitude, Nicole? I'd be interested.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's very similar. It's not focusing on what you don't have. It's what you do have. And sometimes, I've heard in the past, it sometimes takes something significant, a significant emotional event, a crisis, for you to actually stop and be grateful. So if I look at my current, situation, I'm grateful that I can work from home. I'm grateful that I have space to be able to do it. I'm grateful that I have a backyard that I could get fresh air in. So all of these things, sometimes, unfortunately, it takes something negative for you to look for the opportunity, but really trying to practice it. I haven't been one that's done the journals and some of the other methods that are out there, but I do remind myself quite often that I'm grateful to live in this country. I'm grateful for our healthcare. I'm grateful for the family and friends that I have and the connections. I actually feel like we lead a really blessed life, and it's important for us to remind ourselves of that.
Oh, without question. One of the questions we asked a lot of people we interviewed for our book, Leading with Gratitude, is, and we actually ended up not using it, which I thought was a bit of a shame, but is, what is the opposite of gratitude? If I were to ask you, what is your definition of the opposite of gratitude? What comes to mind?
That's a good question. The opposite of gratitude. I think it would almost be not recognizing all of the things that are right in front of you. Because I think we live in this modern world where you want more and more and more. And it's almost like we keep setting the goalpost higher and higher. You achieve something and then you want something else, as opposed to really taking a step back and saying, look at everything that I have, and really embrace and immerse yourself into it.
Yeah, it'd be fun, Scott, for your group to put that out and see what definitions come back, or maybe even put some things in the chat box. Because we asked leaders, they said, oh, it's maybe being self-centered, it's being selfish, indifferent was one that I thought was quite interesting. I think entitled was probably my favorite answer, because when you feel entitled to everything you've got, why would you be grateful? I will tell you a cute story. We were interviewing one of my favorite leaders, Kent Taylor. He's the founder of Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. And he said, oh, I don't know. He's a real down home, just good guy. He says, being a jerk. That was his definition of ingratitude, right? Just being a jerk.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I don't know if I told you this yesterday, but today's a really special day for me. And maybe some of you on the line know this, but today, not only is it April 1st and April Fool's Day, it's my 2-year anniversary as the president of MPAC. So,
virtual cheers, Ray!
So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's funny because from the day I took on this job, one of the things that I've said to our board, and I've said to staff, and I've said to my teams, is the most important thing for me is culture. I have this belief that if we get culture right, everything else will fall into place. And we're good at measuring, we're good at metrics, but I think KPIs will come if you get the culture right. And leading up to COVID-19, I was out in the field. I'd go out every few weeks and I'd chat with staff, and now I don't have that anymore. But I was reflecting on it, and I actually feel more connected today in week 3 of being physically isolated with 1,700 people across the province. So we're talking every second day. We're sending emails out, memos. I'm on the phone all day long with virtual meetings or just voice meetings. And so I thought that was a really interesting reflection. So that would be something that I'm grateful for. But I'd be curious from your perspective. So that's my passion with culture, but how do you link culture and gratitude in the workplace?
You know, it's such an insightful question. You really can't have a healthy culture without a culture of gratitude. You think about it. What does it mean when you have a culture of gratitude? Well, I believe what I do matters and I make a difference, and it's noticed and celebrated, right? So when you're giving gratitude, recognition, appreciation, whatever word you want to use, it's very interesting. There's this sense of my voice is heard, my opinion matters, my work matters, my manager, my supervisor is paying attention. And it's really interesting. Gratitude can't just be top down. Often we say, well, that's all on the leader. No, gratitude is cross-pollination. Really healthy cultures are where coworkers are reaching out to coworkers and they're seeing what they do. Supervisors, they can't possibly see everything that's going on. Coworkers do. Coworkers do. They know who's showing up. They know who's working hard. They know who's really giving their best. And it was interesting. We did a global survey with Willis Towers Watson around what are the top motivators of engagement, right? And it was the sense of well-being was number one, and trust was another one. Communication was another one, and the number one driver of all of those was appreciation, was gratitude. So isn't that interesting? I don't think you can. I'm willing to place a bet, is that you can't have a healthy and engaged culture that isn't full of this appreciating each other, recognizing each other, and supporting each other. Does that ring true with you?
Absolutely. And one of my beliefs for a long time has always been people want to feel valued and they want to show value. They want to get up in the morning, they want to do a good job, and they want to feel like they've done a good job. And so I think that's innate in all of us. And I would tell you that our staff are very grateful. I receive emails right across the province of people who are grateful that they're working, grateful that we're communicating with them, grateful for everything that we're offering at this time. So I think I'm seeing more of it now. Again, I feel more connected than I did before. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's fascinating. The pivot that you've made in your organization. Okay, we can't be physically present, and yet we can find ways to be even more emotionally present. It's really interesting. One of the big drivers of engagement was pride in the organizational symbol. Isn't that interesting? That I'm proud to tell people where I live and work. And what you're doing is by having these webinars and reaching out to people via Zoom and all the different methods you've got, whether you're texting them or calling them or whatever it might be, is you're driving that pride in the organizational symbol. This is what we represent. And not just to our customers, right? It's to each other and to our communities. I think you've really hit on something really important there. And I'm delighted that you've embraced it the way you have. It's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, well, embraced is one of my favorite words, so you got to lean into it. So we're leaning in. Now, Chester, you put a challenge out. So Carla, did anyone in the chat box come back with what some opposite definitions are of gratitude, or are there any questions that you want to put up at this time?
We do have some comments. So opposites of gratitude, complaining, being overly critical were two suggestions. And then someone commented that we should be grateful that we're all in good health, especially important during this time.
No, I'm going to pick up on that complaining comment, Chester. So we say gratitude is a habit. Complaining is also a habit. So is by focusing on gratitude and taking a practice of it help trump maybe some of those negative behaviors and habits that we have?
It does. It does. We've got a saying that gratitude attracts gratitude. And I think that's very true. When you express gratitude to people, it comes back. And I'll give you a very simple example. Before the virus, I would travel every week somewhere. And, depending on how you got to get to places and flights, I had to get up like at 4 o'clock one morning and get an Uber driver at, 4:30. And I'm coming down to the main desk and, nobody wants the night shift. Nobody says, oh yeah, I'll work from, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And there's the guy behind the desk and he doesn't want to be there and I don't want to be up that early. And I'm coming down and I just want to make sure I've got the right address for the Uber driver. Well, young guy, really interesting, incredible hair. Now you can see me in the video. Anybody that's got incredible hair, I'm immediately jealous, right? And he had these really cool cornrows and it was long and it was cool. And I said, hey, can I ask you a quick question? He goes, yeah, what is it? I said, I just need the address for the Uber driver. He goes, yeah, well, show it to me. Yeah, that'll be fine. I said, can I just say one more thing? He goes, what? I go, your hair is amazing, dude. I mean, it's just amazing. Well, it was just a little simple expression of gratitude, like and you know what? Everything changed. He lit up. He goes, "Thanks, man. I work really hard on this." You know, and all of a sudden he was coming out to make sure the Uber driver was there, and absolutely from a complaining moment, right? I don't want to be here. I don't want to see you. To, hey, we're all in this together, and it all happened from just a simple act of, hey, you look great. Love your hair. Isn't that fascinating?
Isn't that amazing? Well, I'm going to say, you know what, Chester, I love your headphones. Those are special podcast headphones. So maybe you can show us what's so special about them.
Yeah, I won't be able to hear you, but these are our gratitude headphones. Check it out. Special edition.
By the way.
Yeah, you can't buy them. You got to know somebody to get these headphones.
Okay. But we'll talk after. So gratitude is so great for us, and there's so much research that says we should all be grateful. What holds people back on being more grateful? What do you think that is?
You know, it's so interesting, and we debunk this in our book. You know, there are several. One of my favorites is they say, well, I just don't have time. You know, we're doing hard things here. We got to check the boxes. We got a lot to, we're doing more with less. You know, with the virus, people working around, blah, 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 blah. How much time does it take to say thank you? You know, how much time does it take to text somebody, hey, I'm thinking about you? How much time does it take, hey, you got 10 minutes on Zoom? It's really interesting. Not just the good leaders, the extraordinary leaders that we studied. You know, they work about a 50-hour work week, right? Nobody works 40 hours anymore. It was about an hour out of their week, 2% of their time. You can find 2%, right? The other myth is that it's a nice to have and not a must have. Oh, it'd be nice if we could do it if I had time, if I had the budget, if, you know, it's an absolute must have, particularly in times of crisis and what we're going through now. When you have hard times, you're going through tough times, you have to up your recognition 2, 3, 4, 5 times, because when there's a gap in gratitude or a gap in communication, what do we immediately fill that with? Fear and negativity. It's just the way we're wired. We're all about defending ourselves. So we're looking for any excuse to say, oh, back up, oh, back up. Gratitude is a way to communicate in such a positive way to keep hope alive, right? The little updates. Hey, we're grateful for this, this, and this. You're doing it at least twice a week to everybody. And I'm sure multiple times during a day to other people. Those simple expressions of gratitude, trust me, that myth of it's a nice to have, not a must have, couldn't be further from the truth. And as you start to look at organizations that really excel, you always find that culture of gratitude. You'll always find leaders that care about their people. And I know you love words, you know, and little triggers. One of my favorites is leaders that ask 2 simple questions. They'll call you up, there's whatever it is. How are you doing? And by the way, I would add, how are you doing now? Right? Because I'm like everybody else out there. I go from ridiculously optimistic to I'm sure that we're all going to die in a matter of 30 seconds, right? You go from the highest level. So how are you doing now? And how can I help? 2 just really powerful questions to let people know you're thinking about it and concerned. What do you think? You know?
Well, you know, we were talking before about communication, and we've made a commitment to all of our staff to communicate regularly. So we do 3 of these a week. And if we need to pop up and do a quick one on one of the opposite days, we'll do that as well. Our government is making announcements every day, sometimes twice a day. We have a federal announcement, we have a provincial announcement. So we're doing our best to dissect the facts of that information and communicate it back out to staff within hours. And I think that staff are extremely appreciative of it. They feel like they're part of something bigger. They feel grateful for it. And it's just information. And one of the things you and I were talking about is in the absence of information, fear sets in. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, and we're all in this together. I mean, we're all trying to sift through the facts and what's happening, and the count goes up one day and down the next day. A new measure comes in. What does that mean for us? What rules are we going to put in place? So we're making decisions as we go. And sometimes, I mean, one of the things I've learned with this experience is you don't actually have all the information. So, but you have to act. You have to act, you have to communicate, and you have to have in those 3 guiding principles I opened with: health and safety of our employees, keeping the business going, and doing our part. Those are our 3 lenses that we put on when we're making all of our decisions.
You know, and it's so important what you just said. Even when I don't have a lot to communicate, I'm going to say, hey, I don't have a lot to communicate. You know, fill the void, right? Fill the void. And people have asked often, what do you think, you know, post COVID-19 is going to look like? Well, a lot of the best practices that you're developing now, I hope will continue, right? You can,
Mhm.
I honestly believe, and I know this to be true, you can't over communicate in a crisis. Now, once the crisis is over, you may dial it back a little bit, hopefully not dramatically, because there's still that need to know. And I love that. How are you doing now? How are we doing now? Right?
No, it's so true. And I'll tell you, all of you on the phone, things that I'm grateful for, because I have my own ups and downs in this. For the most part, I keep myself optimistic, and I see this as a challenge that I'm embracing. But there are moments when I'm touched by it, personally, whether it be, friends and family losing jobs, or knowing people who are ill and can't even get into the medical system. So I have my moments, but there's two things that all of you are doing for me is I'm receiving emails directly from you, and almost all of you start the email with, "I know you're really busy, but I want to share this," which I love it, and I respond to all of them because they are very important to me. But I put a challenge out to our staff. It was either late last week or early this week to say, tell us about, just share with us your home office. What are you doing differently? And we get this email communication from our communications department. And I was scrolling down it and I saw this link with pictures, and I didn't even know that pictures had come in and things had been posted. So I clicked on it and it took me to the intranet page, and we had probably 40 pictures of people who opened up their homes and took a picture of their home office, or a picture of their pet, or a picture of something that they're doing. And it just warmed my heart. And I thought, again, it makes me feel more connected than I did before, even though we're living in this virtual environment.
Those kind of things are really fun. And, Scott, you should be thinking about these gratitude challenges and whatnot. We've done a fun thing in our company where we do what you just said. We post a little photo of something we're grateful for. It's a pet, it's a grandchild, it's a blooming flower. And we tag it with hashtag find your gratitude. And I think that's an important message. There are days when it's tough and you need to find your gratitude. And I'm always amazed at our team, and we've brought in a bunch of other people. We're hoping to create a bit of a movement. So help us out. Hashtag, find your gratitude. Is that it doesn't have to be anything big. It's the flowers are blooming. It's my wife said, what I was most grateful for today? It was a sunny day. It's just so much easier to be optimistic when it's sunny outside. The sun on your skin, going out of the backyard, doing a little bit of gardening. And so I love what you just said there, that people are sending in little things, little bits of gratitude, little positive energy, that kind of keeps you going. And you're right, we're all in this together. And that's another thing I hope doesn't stop post-COVID.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, he says, yeah, I through these traumatic events, I have temporary sanity. And I'm really grateful, and it's very temporary because a week later when it's kind of past, yeah, it's back to what about me. So
Yeah.
those are wonderful things you can do. Find your gratitude every day and simple
And it's the small moments.
and share it I think that's what's key.
Absolutely. Well, I was grateful when I heard birds chirping this morning because I know spring's coming. So now, Chester, you are an author and you wrote a book called Leading with Gratitude. And in that book, it talks about some vital skills. Can you share with us what some of those vital skills are?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we had more fun writing this book than any of our other books come out. I know you're not supposed to have a favorite child, those that you have kids. Oh, we love all our kids the same. By the way, we always have a favorite child, right? And the other kids know it, so stop saying that. This is my favorite child in Leading with Gratitude. And one of the reasons is we were able to engage with so many amazing leaders and look at their best practices. And we call it the 8 leadership practices that lead to extraordinary business results. One of my favorites that I want to share with you is they all assumed positive intent. I love that about creating a positive and gratitude-filled culture is you assume positive intent. The obvious opposite is we assume negative intent, that people are out to get us, right? That the mistakes are to make my life miserable. And I'll tell you a really cute story. We were talking to this woman. She's an executive coach and traveled quite a bit. And of course, when you travel a lot, you've got all the tricks to get through security, right? You've got your
only carry on.
Exactly. And they've got the frequent travelers or expert travelers line, right? So I'm in the expert traveler line. I'm getting ready to go see a client. I'm important, right? And I get in the line, and sure enough, there's a woman at the front of the line with a stroller and all the stuff that comes with a baby, holding a baby. She goes, she's no expert traveler. What the hell? How did she get into this line? does she realize how inconvenient this is to me, right? Focusing on her, sort of, you villainize the person, that's causing you the problem, and you become a victim. And she said, and then something happened that changed everything. She said, in trying to speed things through so she wouldn't hold up the line, she took her baby and put her on the floor, and airport floors are filthy, right?
Yeah.
She's a mother herself. And she said, at that moment, everything changed. And I immediately said, you know what? She's not trying to make my life miserable. She's just trying to get through security like everybody else. She says, I left my bags. I went over, I said, can I help? And I picked up her baby off the floor and got her stuff through. She said, at that moment, it changed everything. To your point, Nicole, something happens that triggers, and they said, you know what? I'm being selfish. So assume positive intent. I love WD-40. Gary Ridge, one of my favorite CEOs. And we're going to give away a copy of our book. You're going to love it. Beautiful cover, orange spine, my favorite color. Yeah. If you can tell me what WD-40 stands for, put it in the chat box. I will send you not only a gratitude book, and I'm sorry I don't have one in front of me here. I will send you a pair of gratitude socks. Everybody.
Socks. Okay.
Ooh,
Oh,
socks.
and a book. Okay. All
Socks
right.
and a book. If you
All
can
right,
tell me
Carmen,
what
we need you
WD.
to pop up.
Yeah. So here's their philosophy at WD-40. We're a tribe, and in a tribe we protect each other, right? We cheer for each other. We're here for each other. We fight for each other. And he said, we don't make mistakes at WD-40. We have learning opportunities. Okay, so Clara, do we have a winner?
We do. Maria Ciotti, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. She answered within seconds, I would say.
What's the answer?
Water displacement.
Water displacement, 40th formula.
Congratulations,
ding,
Maria.
ding, ding. Clara, make sure you send me her mailing address. And by the way, I will sign the book. And as those of you that collect signed books know, a signed book on eBay is worth anywhere from 10 to 12 cents more than an unsigned book. So we're talking big money here. What I love about water displacement 40th formula is when you have a culture where we don't make mistakes, we have learning opportunities. You're not afraid to innovate. You're not afraid to make a mistake, right? And he says, look, it's baked into our name. 40th formula, 39 formulas weren't quite right. Were they mistakes? Absolutely not. They were learning opportunities to get to the 40th formula. Well, what's really cool about Gary is he took over as CEO, I guess about a dozen years ago. And through the last recession, 2007, 2008, he said, people were asking me, hey, Gary, are you okay? Are you okay? He even asked his wife, he said, honey, do I give off a sick vibe? She said, no, honey, they're not asking, are you okay? They're asking, are we okay? And Gary said something I'd love to share with your organization. He says, well, you know what? Let's not waste a good crisis. Isn't that a great attitude? Let's not waste a good crisis. He said, when everybody else is hearing about the horrors, that people are getting laid off, that people are going out of business, he says, here they're going to hear messages of hope. We're going to invest in our people. We're going to do, classic. We're going to do these webinars. We're going to give you tools to work through this kind of stuff. We're going to be the message of hope. I love it. Look, we haven't laid anybody off. We hope that continues, right? We're going to do everything we can to keep everybody employed, to invest in you. And here's what happened. When they came out of that recession, their business increased by 33%. They've never looked back. They went from a $280 million organization to $2.8 billion. So you think about that. And it came in that moment when people were the most vulnerable, where they stepped up as a tribe and said, we got this. We're not going to waste a good crisis. We're all in this together. Let's innovate. Let's keep going. And boy, did it work. Isn't that fascinating?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's Winston Churchill that said, never waste a good crisis. And we're doing the same thing here. And one of the things, so yes, people are sending pictures of their homes. They're also sending in ideas. And at the end of this virtual leader chat, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we want to harvest all those ideas, because we will be a better organization after. We are already finding innovative ways to do things that we weren't able to do before or didn't think of because we weren't forced to it. Again, that significant emotional event that sort of pushes you in that direction. So let's not lose sight of it, because we are being more creative, we're being innovative, and we will get through it together. And so helping each other out, lending a hand, making sure that people feel supported, that's all of our job as we go through this.
Well said.
Carla, do you have any questions that have come in? I just want to make sure if there's any ones because we can keep going.
We do have some questions. We also have some comments. So on the thinking of opposite of gratitude, comments received are taking things for granted, discontentment, self-pity, focusing on what you don't have rather than what you do, oblivion, resentment, and constant negativity. So thank you for those who submitted those. As well, positive outcomes of gratitude. Some people are noting that the impact of thank you, what that does to the person receiving it. And then Scott Milne is being quoted as saying that there are 86,400 seconds in one day. I haven't done the math, so I'm trusting Scott. And it takes just 1 second to say thank you.
Wow,
so
I love those.
Some nice comments.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Oblivious. I love that comment. Oblivious to what's going on. It's all about me. Scott, jump in.
I will have to get a book wherever quoted that, right?
I'll let you know.
Scott
I'll
wants
let
a
you know.
second copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to show you the bonus thing. Give me just literally 2 seconds. Hold on. I'll be right back.
And Nicole, there are a few congratulation messages as well on your anniversary, so that's nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I couldn't let it go by. These are the gratitude socks.
Socks.
I know. Listen, all the cool kids are wearing
fancy socks. So Scott needs socks.
It matches the cover of the book. And a fun little aside. So we bought all these placements in airports, because business people buy books in airports. And we said, buy this book, it'll knock your socks off and you get a free pair of socks. Well, the week after we launched that, basically the airport shut down. So trust me, we got a whole bunch of socks and we're happy to send them to you.
We're happy to receive them. Absolutely.
You got it.
It's funny. Do you find that gratitude's contagious? So even having this conversation with you today, we're laughing, we're talking about good things. And I feel, I feel my vibe go up because of that. You must see that with your clients and in your work, and showing gratitude. It makes you feel good.
It's really interesting. A friend of mine, and I'm going to get the quote wrong, and Scott, feel free to write this down and make it your own, it says, gratitude and happiness is the one virus that once expressed has a tremendous shelf life. It just ripples through. And you know this, you like to be around positive people. You just do. And I'll tell you how you combat it. And we put this story in the book, actually. It's a story about my father. John Dalton Elton, love my dad. He's just the most positive guy ever. In our church, it's a lot of volunteer work, and he was volunteering with the youth. And, in every congregation, there's that one person, just the curmudgeon, and misery loves company. They're miserable and they want to share that misery with everybody. Well, she comes up to him after church one day and says, Mr. Elton, you think that all the kids in this congregation just love you. Well, I'm here to tell you, they don't, right? And my dad says, well, thank you. And she says, it wasn't a compliment. And he said, too late. Too late. My dad had this great philosophy. He says, I just assume anything anybody says to me is a compliment. And he would just laugh and move on. Well, it's kind of that attitude that you've got to develop. Is say, look, to your point, think of all the things you're grateful for. The country you live in, that you're safe, the healthcare system works, you can work from home. You've got amazing people working with them for you. 99% of the world would trade places with you or me in a nanosecond. I visited, some developing countries and some of the charities that we work with and so on. And I got to tell you, I will never take for granted turning on a tap and getting potable water. And another thing, did you know that a third of all the world's, drinkable water is in Canada? How great is that, eh? I mean, seriously, You're never going to run out of water. Simple things like that. And I think one of the reasons that that's so important for Canada is, skating rinks. I mean, you need to freeze the water.
Well, we need because we're a hockey country, right?
Right,
So.
and you can't, in countries where water is scarce, you're not making hockey rinks. You're just not going to use your water for that.
Absolutely. Carla, you have some questions?
Yeah, so we do have some questions. So one is, where can we buy your book, Leading with Gratitude?
That's the best question ever. Who said that?
There are a couple. There are a couple of
socks.
Socks for everybody on that one. Yeah. You know, it's available online at Indigo, Amazon, airports. If you can next time you're there, they've got a lot of them. And you know, I want to offer you something really fun here. Is we've got a wonderful book website. It's called leadingwithgratitudebook.com. And go to the free resources, because there's some really fun videos in there. You can download the first chapter of the book and sample it before. You can also download the foreword, which is written by a dear friend of ours, Marshall Goldsmith, another very accomplished author, wrote a book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I highly recommend it. And you know, sample it and use it. And any of those things you need, please download them and share them with your teams. You know, the great thing about gratitude is that you share it. And we've got a wonderful part of the website to do that. And there are clicks where you can buy the book in various places. So thanks for asking.
Live it.
Great. Another question is, what would you say to critics when you're being thankful or showing gratitude, but it's perceived as you wanting something from them?
Yeah, you know, get over that. just really don't. That's assuming negative intent, right? Oh, you want something? Oh, okay. Now, where's the and I need, or just, you know, just take it as a compliment. See, that's the suspicion that a lot of leaders have that's really unhealthy. And they're also afraid that if they give gratitude, oh, they'll get a big head and ask for a raise. Instead of, you know, maybe they're just having a tough day and they need a little encouragement. Now, are there cases where what you just said is true? Yeah, probably. I'll tell you though, it's probably 1 out of 1,000. It literally, the ratio is like 1 out of 1,000. And you know what? That's something that you can deal with in a one-off. Don't make that your policy. That, you know, every time somebody compliments me, they want something. That's a horrible way to live. Or every time I give somebody a compliment. Go ahead, Nicole.
Like I even mentioned before, approaching everything with positive intent. And, you know, positive intent, look at it for the positives. And one of the things we've been doing as an organization since Bell Let's Talk Day is really talk about mental health. And one of the things I've been saying is, and again, I'll say it again, people come to work and they want to do a good job. If they're not, don't assume that they want to do a bad job. There's probably something else. Maybe something bad happened on their way to work. Maybe there's something from a personal standpoint. So go in with a positive intent and say, how can I help you? And approach it from that perspective.
And that is such a healthy way to look at things. And think about, you know, the tribe at WD-40. You know, people come to work, they want to do a good job, and they make mistakes. Yeah, that's going to happen. You know, there is a problem. You are not the problem, right? We have a problem. You are not the problem. Let's figure out the problem. You know, one of the great leaders that we studied, Ken Murdoch, he said, look, as a leader by myself, yeah, I can come up with some pretty good ideas. And they might be all right. Collectively, we're Einstein. You know, collectively, like all, you know, these chat things and all the things. Look, we're so much smarter together when you've got, you know, 1,700 brains working on a problem as opposed to just one. I'll tell you a really great practice, and it's right there in Toronto. It's the president of Toronto FC. He's actually now the president of the Toronto Argonauts as well. His name's Bill Manning. I've known Bill for a long time, and he has this just unbelievable ability to create winning organizations. When he first came to Toronto FC, they had never made the playoffs. His first year, they made the playoffs. Second year, they made it all the way to the finals. Third year, they made it to the finals and won. Then they missed the playoffs for 1 year, and then they were back to the finals. I said, how do you do that? He said, you know, it's all about coming together as a team. And he said, look, I would go around, and when I first got here, I'd say, what is it that you do and why do you do it? He said, well, I trim the grass on the pitch so the players can practice, or I make the food in the cafeteria so the players, you know, can have meals. He said, no, that's not right. Everything we do is so that we can win the cup. And what he did that I thought was amazing, he built all these trophy cases in the entrance to the facility for all the trophies they hadn't won yet. You know,
if you build it, you will cup.
Yeah, and so he built one for the MLS Cup, and it was empty. And they said, just a reminder that we're going to fill that trophy case. Well, in a matter of three years, they filled every case. Now, here's what's really fun: the little things. So, you know, the maintenance guy comes and he says, "Okay, we want to put the little tag there, you know, for 2017." And he put the tag in the middle. And Bill goes, "No, put it to the left. We want to make room for more." Right? Subtle little things. Well, one of the things he does with his team that I think is brilliant is he brings them together, you know, and there's, you know, sports teams don't have as many full-time employees as you might think. They outsource a lot of stuff, concessions and parking and so on, security. He's got about 50 people in his organization, and he'd bring them together, once or twice a month. And he'd say, when you come to the meeting, I want you to think of somebody that you want to express gratitude for. And he randomly calls somebody out, and they had like a gift card that they'd all decided was what they wanted. So, that again, it's not top down, it's all side to side. And he said, I knew we'd really arrived when I called on Bob, and he says, I want to recognize Sam. And Sam came up, and Sam said, I've been waiting for 3 months to be called on, and I'm going to give my gift card to Susan. And he called up Susan. That ripple effect. And I think that's when you've got a culture of gratitude where everybody's looking out for everybody, and you're not just relying on whatever the recognition platform you have is, which I think are great, by the way. You're counting on each other to really support and cheer for each other. But Carla's back, so I'm guessing we've got some questions.
Yes, I have. So in line with what you're speaking about, Chester, just some questions on how to maintain a positive attitude when you're around a negative person or people for long periods of time, as well as how do you instill gratitude principles in young children?
Two great questions. For the first one, how do you keep an attitude of gratitude when you're around really negative people? Really simple. Get away from those people. Put some space in between you and those people. Now, sometimes you actually can't do that. And so what I recommend is bring some gratitude into the conversation, right? Say, and I would, this is a hard thing to do. Try to eliminate no but from your conversation. I've got a great idea. No but. Say yes and. It's a thing that comedians use. When they do improv, they throw it to the next comedian.
Yes.
The first thing the comedian says is yes and, not no but. It's always yes and. Bring that into the conversation. Yes and. Add to things. And you know what I found actually works, even with the curmudgeons? Write them a little handwritten note. Drop it in the mail and say, hey, it was a tough session today. A lot of things. I just want to let you know I really appreciate you showing up, bringing your good ideas. Express gratitude towards them. And then on a personal note, I'll share with you a practice that it really does work. Because you're around a lot of negative people and you come out and you just go, right? Take your phone, set the timer for 2 minutes. Start typing in the names of the people you know and love and that you really appreciate. And I guarantee in 2 minutes, a lot of that negativity will dissipate. So rule number one, if you can, get away from those people. Number two, try to bring as much gratitude into the conversation and the project as you can. And then number three, take care of yourself. Take those 2 minutes and just start typing in names of people that you know and love. And it'll get
for. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
What would be some of your tips on that, Nicole?
Well, it's
Not
funny
that you're
because
ever around negative people. I know you're never around negative people. Right? What do you do?
Well, I do try to bring things that I'm grateful for into conversations. So that is something that I have been doing. And one of the things that you and I spoke about yesterday, and it was funny, I did it myself, is you said, tell someone just thank you or how are you doing? And especially in light of this crisis that we're in, I went through my phone and I texted people that I don't normally talk to on a regular basis, someone that I would work out with at the gym. I sent one to my hairdresser and I sent one to my tailor. And I just said, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do? Just wanted to check in, say hello. And it was amazing, the responses that you get back. And I think they felt good and I felt good just receiving them. So just putting it out there and saying thank you and how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help?
Always better to give than receive, because when you give, you always receive. I'm really grateful for the postman that comes by every day, our mailman. And so we'll leave a little bottle of water out for him and a little granola bar and a little note, say thanks, Armando, you're doing great, because we're still mailing stuff out and, our books arrive and stuff. Our winners, I'm going to put that, package out and then Armando's going to pick it up and make sure you get it. So little things. The second question I think is brilliant and it's so important.
How do you get your children to be grateful?
Exactly. And I will tell you my favorite data point, and by the way, we have 1 million engagement surveys that we draw from, right? Is that when you're happy and engaged and motivated at work, you're 150% more likely to be happy, motivated, engaged in your personal life. So as we wrote the book, we talked to leaders. They led with gratitude and created these amazing organizations. It was American Express, Toronto FC, Best Buy, and on and on. They all took it home, every one of them. And I thought that was really affirming. And so at the end of the book, we have a baker's dozen, 13 ideas of how you can take it home. One of them that I really love is serve together. Find ways to serve. Now, as we're all, sheltering in place, talk to your kids about, hey, there's an older couple down the way. I'm sure they would, appreciate just some kind of encouragement. Make a little something and leave it on their step, or write them a letter, or send them some artwork, or FaceTime with them. Just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Teach your kids to serve. And when this is all over, take them to a soup kitchen, take them to clean up a park, take them to, collect coats or food for the homeless. Serving together is a great way to explain to your kids in a very, it's emotional, it's visual, it's physical, that you have a lot. And because you have a lot, don't hesitate to give. I'll tell you another one that I really like is teach your kids to embrace tough times. Teach them to embrace hard times. As we would talk to leaders and we say, tell us about your career, they'd always jump to, oh man, we were within hours of going bankrupt. I had to hawk my wife's wedding ring so we could make payroll. And why do they do that? Because that's when you learn the most. That's when you're stretched and you grow and you learn the most. Learn to embrace hard times. Don't say, why is this happening to me? Ask the question, what am I supposed to learn? What can I learn? How can we do? In the worst of times is where the great leaders and great ideas come from, right? And so ask yourself, as we're going through this COVID-19, how do we want to be remembered? How did we embrace the hard times? Teach that to your kids. One last one, because I know your kids are now on top of you, right? You're homeschooling and all that stuff. A good buddy of mine in New York, he said, our dinners are not very engaging, right? We'd say to the kids, how was school? Fine. What did you learn? Nothing. And we've all had that conversation. He said, his name's Dave Kirpin, by the way. I want to make sure we give him a shout out. He said, we at dinner, you have to answer 3 questions. First is, what was the best part of your day? Who are you grateful for that's not at the table? And who are you grateful for at the table that hasn't been thanked yet? I love those questions. He said, the conversation got more meaningful. At first it was, oh, dad, oh, dad. He says, I knew it would caught on when they'd bring a friend to dinner, which we hope happens again soon. And they'd say, hey, look, you got to answer 3 questions. Okay, so don't embarrass me. Have good answers. What was the best part of your day? Who are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for? Simple things like that. Serve together, embrace hard times, have meaningful conversations. I think it really does help and teach your kids in meaningful ways to be grateful for the many blessings that we have. Does that make sense?
I love that. And it's in us to serve, and we should do it. And what we've been saying from the beginning is we need to do our part. So yes, we need to do our part to stay home, but help someone out, help a neighbor, help someone who needs it. Call a coworker that you think is struggling because they have 3 kids at home and no childcare and they're trying to work. So it's in all of us. It's a call to action for us. And I just want to mention one other thing, going back, and then we'll get to you, Carla, on your Toronto FC comment. What I found really amazing in this experience for us, so you talked about, we always think of a sports team as the team. Everyone as part of the team is the team. But what you said is basically everything that makes that team operate is the team. And that's one thing I've really noticed in this crisis for us. It doesn't matter what department you're in, everyone is coming to the table. They're coming with suggestions and work things that people were doing before. All of a sudden, that may be off the table. It's what do we need to do today? What do we need to do right now? And everyone's jumping in. And so I just think it's amazing. Like this entire organization in terms of team, I don't feel any silos departments. It's just we're all in this together. How do we best serve municipalities, knowing that all of our work product is something that they're right now focused on healthcare. So how do we support them? How do we time it? How do we work with them? And everyone's coming to the table with it. So I'm just really proud of everything that we're doing.
I love that. One of the leaders that we in real time that we're working with right now is Kent Taylor. He's the founder, president, and CEO of Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. By the way, he loves Alberta beef. I just want to throw that in. And he says, in hard times where you've got to be innovative, he says, the first thing I do is I go talk to my crazies. I talk to the guys that think out of the box. And that collective, he says, great leaders are great listeners. Tell me what you're doing. How are you being innovative? What are you doing now that's different? Because his restaurants are shut down. It's all just curbside takeaway. And so he's talking to guys that are showing movies on the back of their restaurants to bring people in. and, you know, spacing the cars alternately for social distancing. He says, you know, in our restaurants, we would do line dancing. So now we deliver the food and we line dance, you know, 6 feet apart, right? It's really interesting. Get innovative, embrace the hard times, talk to your crazies and get that collective crazy. And he says, people aren't afraid to be crazy because I'm the chief crazy officer. That's a great title for you, Nicole. That would be a great title.
Well, you have to lean into the challenge, right? You can't fight it. It's here. So lean in and use the momentum. So Carl, I didn't mean for you to pop off the screen. You got to come back. I know you had a question.
No, I wanted to watch you guys big screen, so I just
Okay.
myself. So one more question, and it's for our managers and directors. They're asking, what can they do to help promote an ongoing culture of gratitude with their staff?
Excellent question. Know your staff, know your players. You know, we're looking at the best practices of how you express gratitude, and that's one of the ones is tailor it to the individual. So get to know your people. Get to know what motivates them. I'll tell you a cute story. A friend of mine was working in Detroit, always wanted to work in New York. So he goes to New York, he interviews, he gets the job, comes back to his wife. His wife was so excited. His new manager says, hey, I want to celebrate this, right? So a package shows up a day or two later, and it's this giant bottle of champagne. How cool is that, right? Except the guy was in AA, you know, so the intent was there, right? The execution was lacking, right? And so, I mean, they didn't know each other very well. They laugh about it now, right? Know your players. One of the resources we used in the book is we have a Motivators Assessment, and it's an online test. It takes you about 20 minutes, and it lets you know what your key motivators are at work. Well, if you know someone's key motivator is family, you're going to give them time to spend with their family. You know, if it's recognition, you're going to find ways to give them the spotlight. You know, if it's social responsibility, you're going to make maybe a small donation to their charity, and on and on. To keep it rolling, know your team, know your players and coworkers. In fact, one of the things Nicole and I talked about is we wanted to do our little part, you know, as our training company, the Culture Works, for people that are working from home. Invest in yourself, know yourself. So we sell these motivators assessments all the time. We've given away a couple of $100,000 worth of them now. We're going to offer for you, along with the book and the socks, which I think are very cool, is if you would like, let us know. We will send you it. You can do it online from your home. It's very safe. A code, the website, and you can take your own motivators assessment. I would be delighted to send it to you. And then what gets cool is when other people take it, share your assessments, get to know your teams, get to know your people. Find out what it is that's really important to them. And when it comes time to express gratitude, you can do it in a way that's very meaningful. And I would really
thank you so much, Chester. You offered that yesterday, and your opening question was, would you be open to taking something for free? And I said, hey, who says no to free? So we're all in. And I really believe that this is a time for us to be reflective and to invest in ourselves, do some online training. And if this helps us understand ourselves better, and we feel comfortable sharing it as a team, even better, because knowing what your own motivators are, I mean, then you can make some real solid decisions and maybe even know where the triggers are. So thank you for that.